Hi there, swimmers and swimmers. I'm Garrett McCaffrey, and joining us today, all the way from Edinburgh, Scotland, is Chris Jones. He's the head coach of the University of Edinburgh, and this is the SwimSwam podcast. Chris, thank you so much for making this work today. I really appreciate you coming on the podcast.
No problem. It's great to be on and talking to you guys. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, help us. Let's start for us naive Americans who don't fully understand how the club and college system, the university system work over there in the UK. Can you help us understand how a university like Edinburgh kind of fits into the grand scheme of swimming in the UK?
Yeah, no problem. It's interesting. University swimming in the UK has been sort of steadily growing over a number of years now. I think Loughborough University, you did a piece on, I think, the last couple of weeks. They've probably been the university within performance sport that have sort of set the tone in the early years of sport developing in the UK. But over the last perhaps 10 years, you've seen a steady rise of other universities' programs being able to improve and add to senior swimming within the UK. The structure is such where you have, I think if you take a university program in the UK, they're a club and they're a university program in the same structure. We operate as a club where we can compete in sort of national championships and British trials, but we can also compete in the British University Championships, which is your equivalent, the NC2As. So the structure itself is growing each year, strength to strength within the UK. We have swimmers ranging from 17 years old up to 27. You can have guys that study within the program, which the vast majority do. But you can also have, full-time professional athletes, as well as, athletes that perhaps work alongside doing their swimming commitments as well.
So, okay, that answers a lot of the questions I had about age range and if they're all students. Are the ones who are students getting some kind of financial aid and scholarship for that academic side of things?
Yeah, absolutely. It's another thing that has been on the rise over the more investment that's gone into the sport. The scholarship program is something that started to happen in Edinburgh. What we've done over the last sort of 14 years, I started in 2008. I actually set the program up within the University of Edinburgh, and we've steadily grown it over that time. And we're really fortunate in terms of some of the support we get from the university in terms of being able to offer scholarship programs. And it's now a really healthy package that we can offer in terms of not just the resources we've got in terms of, the support services, but also the financial support that we can offer aspiring, international level athletes to be able to do their academics but also, compete at swimming at a high level. We have a number of other performance sports that have to fit into the mix. Again, like a lot of the US programs, we have a really strong rowing program amongst others as well. But the swim team is one of our leading programs. So in terms of some of our undergrad programs, we have some great financial packages, anything up to £10,000 that we can offer some of our leading athletes. But it's really the postgraduate program where there's a lot more flexibility around that. We're able to offer full scholarships over a 2-year period to international athletes coming from all over the world, from the US, from all around Europe. And we've got a real international feeling around the program. And it's something that we're really open to. We're excited by, being able to offer this to some of these emerging athletes, to be able to do their academics as well. The University of Edinburgh is, it's one of the oldest universities in the world, and it's extremely academic as well. So one of our mottos that we have, we're excellence in academics, but we're excellence in athletics as well, and that's what we're striving to do in our performance sport program at the moment. And that's why we've got these competitive scholarship programs that we can offer now.
So they're all the kids, or all the young adults and athletes that you coach, are either undergraduate or graduate students?
Yeah, postgraduate programs. Yeah, the vast majority. We do have a number of athletes that maybe graduated and continue to swim on a professional level. So we can offer all of those spectrums, and we're open to all of those areas. We don't have any restrictions in place for those things.
So as far as the system in the UK for inter university competition, there's no limit on the number of scholarships or who everybody trains with or anything like that?
That's right. No, we don't have any limitations in terms of that. It's a fairly new thing and an emerging thing within the UK. As I said, Loughborough have been setting the tone for that a bit longer than anyone else, but there's some emerging universities that are really starting to push in terms of what we can offer. And we're one of them, and we've worked really hard to be able to provide some of these attractive packages to our international students from around the world.
Are the postgrads paying dues, or are they just able to come and train and get the training for free?
Yeah, we pretty much for free, and there's certain fees that we have put in place in terms of insurance and different things that we have for a fee to train at the start, but the vast majority of it is free. So the scholarship that they get to pay for their academics and to pay for their swimming goes a long way in the support. So as I said, we've worked really hard, especially in the postgrad area, to be able to provide these amazing packages as well. So it's pretty attractive.
Yeah. How big is your team?
At the moment, we've kind of sitting around 65 athletes throughout the whole spectrum. We're open to just student athletes as well, on the sort of first rung of the performance swim team, right up to sort of international caliber athletes that we have going off to the Commonwealth Games this year and the World Championships. We've got swimmers at the World Para Championships as well, that they've just left actually just the other day to head over there, and the European Championships later on this summer. So yeah, we've got a full spectrum across the board to be able to compete at those level meets.
Yeah, that's a huge team of 60 plus, and from what I can understand from the website, you've got 2 assistant coaches and a separate weight coach. Does that mean that you're coaching all 65 of those swimmers at some point or another?
No, we've got in terms of my role as the head coach, I play very much a role with the coaches that I have. We've got a really experienced group of coaches. We've added another one this year, so we've got a total of 4 coaches, including myself. We split it around. We made a few changes this year where, coming out of COVID, I felt personally responsible for me to have a bit more of a holistic view of the program. So working with the coaches, working with the staff, to be able to pick up any gaps within the program coming out of the pandemic. So we've got one of the coaches, Matt Trodden, who is a fantastic coach. Been working with him for about 8 years now, and does a really good job in working with some of our elite athletes. Another coach, Ross Douglas, who again is a really good developing coach who works with sort of the core of the program, we call it, where a multi-layered approach, probably around about 20 swimmers within that group. And then there's another coach that we've just started with called Jennifer Davis, who picks up a lot of the kind of student-based athletes that have different levels, different abilities, that picks up that sort of baseline of the program. So we have a really good opportunities right the way through the spectrum, and I work heavily with the coaches and support staff to do that. We're really fortunate in Edinburgh when we set it up, that we're able to offer the strength and conditioning support, psychology support, sports science. We put a lot of effort into our sports science program with our partners at Scottish Swimming and the governing body. of the sport, being able to provide some of these amazing resources that we do along with ourselves.
Got it. That makes sense. I was going to kind of get to that question too. Who pays for this? Is that mainly the university, or is, you just said Scottish Swimming pays for a little bit of
Yeah,
that as well?
that's right. Yeah, I mean, the University of Edinburgh pick up a big chunk of everything that we do, but we're really lucky where we've got great partnerships with Scottish Swimming and British Swimming, where some of the resources that we tap into through sports science or physio or other aspects that we sometimes link in with some of our elite athletes, that we're able to utilize those resources and bring them in closer with our own staff that we have as well. So, we have a really strong relationship with Scottish Swimming over a number of years. Scottish Swimming have like four centres within the network in Scotland. Scotland's a pretty small country in terms of population, and there's a program in Glasgow, the University of Stirling, which is about an hour away from us, and then ourselves in Edinburgh in the east, and then there's another one in Aberdeen, which is in the north of Scotland. Those are the four main centres, and then there's a huge club network around as well.
As far as when you're setting up your season, you're competing against universities and clubs, and obviously the international trials was a recent meet that you all had a really good meet and great success at. How does the season set up? I mean, are those university competitions a top priority, or is that come second to making those international teams, which you guys have had loads of success doing as well?
It's a good question, because we often get asked that a lot, and with this kind of emerging university competitive framework within the UK, obviously our resources, the majority of our resources come through the University of Edinburgh, so they looked for us in a Bucks level, British University level to compete strong. So, but us as coaches have to sort of make sure that we're competing at a high level there. So the Bucks short course championships happens in November, and then the Bucks long course happens in February, with the trials, as you mentioned there, happening in sort of April time. So in terms of the way we structure the season, obviously the priority will be the trials event in April, but we spend a lot of time obviously with planning our cycles to make sure that we can go in to those Bucks events ready. It's not the focus in terms of that, and we set that out at the start with everyone, but we make sure that we are mentally ready. We can get into those and put some good competitive I guess, races together in those meets. And it's good race practice because they're great meets and they're fun meets. And
the short course meet?
The short course meets in November, that's great. And then the long course meets in February. So that the great meets for us to set us up for the main events of the season. So yeah. So
let's kind of talk a little bit more about those British trials and the group that did so well. Is that the group that you primarily work with, the people focused on those trials?
Yeah, myself and as I mentioned, Matt there and Ross, with those are we had a big contingent there this year. As I said, we made a few adjustments this year as we came out of COVID, just to make sure that we could do that. One of the things that I attribute to the success, along with the great coaches that we have, is that we really wanted to make sure that we could use the opportunity of coming out of the pandemic and create a really good team. We worked on our values, what we thought was important, athletes and staff. We really bought into a vision and a strategy towards that, and there was a real togetherness and what we've done. We worked with a sports psychologist that came and talked with the team and how to draw out that. Everyone felt part of that vision towards the trials. Everyone felt part of that journey. We talked about team and the values all the way through. The athletes got together and came up with their own values, and we started that. And every meet we went to, we talked about supporting each other through the meet and sharing in each other's goals and ambitions. So, and I think that carried all the way through, that kind of positive outlook. And when we got to trials, along with the preparation that we had and delivered for the athletes along the way, we had a really good vibe. We were able to take a really good level contingent of athletes. I think we had something around the lines of about 35 athletes at the meet, and which was fantastic. So the support that we generated at the meet, sort of along with those values, really helped everybody perform, and the performances were just fantastic.
Can you share what some or all of those values were that you guys came up with as a team?
We talked around, yeah. I mean, some of them, so the main ones was about unity and support. The way that when I set the program back in 2008, I was very clear around the way that I wanted this to be about relationship building, about it being athlete centered, around it being a family of high achieving academic and athletic young adults, and I wanted that to resonate. I wanted that to start, and that was the building framework from those early years that as we came out of the pandemic, we wanted to reestablish those values as going into it. And the pandemic was challenging for everybody, right? It was a difficult period of time, but I think we felt really important that we could come up with some reestablish those core values of the team, and the athletes really bought into it, and we carried that into the meet. We had a hashtag that we used a number of years ago, and we kind of let it drift away. And when the athletes dive in the water, we tended to shout just boost. It was a thing that we did, and a couple of coaches said to me, where did that go? And I was like, I don't know. Where did that go? We forgot about it. So we brought these little things back into our makeup. So when the athletes and the gun goes for the start, the athletes shout boost, and everybody knows that when they hear that, there's a Edinburgh athlete just about to get in the water. So we brought these little things, these little nuances back into the program that perhaps we'd forgot about in the past. And it was we had a really exciting meet, and some of the athletes just like really inspired us in some of their performances.
Sounds like an awesome environment. Sounds like
Yeah.
a healthy place for young adults and adults to become great athletes. Can we talk a little bit more about the X's and O's when you're breaking up your group into groups? Is it something where you're doing different groups every day? Is it something that they're all kind of training together for the whole time or some of the time? Can you kind of just give us a big picture of what your day-to-day practices look like as far as how you're structuring a workout for 35 or how many individuals that you're working with in your top group on a daily basis?
Okay, yeah. So we in our top group, we've got roughly around 16 athletes. So the day-to-day things will be led by Coach Matt, and I'll be supporting Matt around making sure the program is right for some of the individuals. Some of our top athletes that are in that group, well, most of the top athletes are in that group, and that will be centered around obviously international competing meets. And so when we're looking at it, we've got a range of different types of athletes, from like 50 specialists up to 200 breaststrokers, 400 freestylers. So we tailor obviously the program around that. There could be like maybe 3 to 4 to 5 different things going on that, and me and the coaches will talk about that at the start of the week and get into some of the detail around who's needed where and how that's related to maybe some of the individual targets of that athlete. So, for example, this is where the wider support services come in as well. We would meet on a Monday. Strength and conditioning coach might say we've been working over the last 3 weeks on the start and the some of the the strength and application off the start. And this is what we've been trying to do. That the coaches will then take that and maybe apply that into some of the training to make sure that we're all on the same page. Then the physio would come in and make sure that anything that sort of from a mobility point of view, we do that. So we really try, and it's up to me as the head to try and bring all these things into the melting pot together to make sure that it's coherent into the training program as well. Then I can work past all that onto the coaches as we go. So in terms of the structure, that would be around about where we're at in terms of the numbers, how we deal with it on a day-to-day basis. We swim. We roughly about 9 sessions a week in this top group, but we can have pretty much flexibility to up to 10, depending on where we are in the cycle. But we have two swimming pools that we swim out of. We're lucky we've got our own 25-metre pool that is the universities that we train big chunk, and the 50-metre pool in the city, the Royal Commonwealth Pool in Edinburgh, is kind of owned by the city, and we share that access to that, and that's where the relationship with the governing body allows us to get great access into that facility to be able to, you know, hit our long course training as well. And that's where all our training sort of would go around, and we would share that. When one group's in one place, the other group is in the other place, and we flip over that, so we get a good balance between long course and short course training.
Are they each on their individual weekly training cycles? Is there kind of a training cycle that you try to stick with on a weekly basis?
Yeah, I mean, we generally follow a 3-week training block cycle, and then like a week of adaptation and recovery. You know, depending on where we are within the year, that's the general find throughout the groups. But the individuality, the specificity of that would be within that we would collaborate, put, you know, like for like together in terms of, you know, events or needs within that cycle. If someone's targeting a certain event, and, you know, it all comes down to timing. So these would all be drawn out in the meeting. But generally, you know, you would start together, or maybe you would splinter off if there was different things going on in the pool. So we could add as much specific work as we can into the training zone.
Cool. I'm just trying to dig in deeper, because obviously it's really hard to explain all of the complications that go into specific training for a big group and a variety of events. But, you know, the results that really stood out a lot are the breaststroke results. Can you give me an example of a great breaststroke set that you guys would be doing, you know, here in May or June, coming off of trials, trying to build back up a little bit before they go off their separate ways for other meets? So kind of like, you know, a heart of the season, trying to push them, trying to get them to work and make some gains. Breaststroke set that you might see typically?
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that we've worked on this year, and my colleague Matt has done a fantastic job bringing some of that together in the breaststroke. He's a big believer in some of the resistance work that we've been doing, just allowing to pick up the dead spot in the breaststroke. You know, I think you guys in the US use the buckets a lot. We've got these swim towers, you know, weighted swim towers that we've been using, and the bungee cords quite a lot in terms of adding that level of resistance and then exploding into a bit of transfer, a bit of fast work. So we use it as a technical aid to really hone in that work, and we use stroke rate to really look at the tempo around that, make sure that the stroke is as efficient as it can be. So we've been Matt's been using that a lot this year, and we've had some really good results of that for the athletes to be able to get that transfer, work on the efficiency of the stroke, make sure that it's light, make sure that the cutting through the water is as good as possible. And they like it, they enjoy it. So we've been utilising that a good maybe 2 to 3 times a week in the cycle. So we'll be getting back into a lot of that right now, and being able to, as preparing for the main meets. It can be quite heavy at times in terms of like, it's quite a challenging training form when you've got that level of resistance. But we are seeing some really good results from it.
Yeah. How many days a week are you lifting?
It depends on who the athlete are. We probably 2 to 3 times a week. We tend to do it on a Tuesday, Thursday morning. We're quite fortunate that we can swim at 9 a.m. and we would do gym at 7 a.m. So we get that. So there's something that we've done new this year in pre S&C work into the pool, and that's a nice bit of transfer as well when you come there. So we can get into the pool, apply some of those skills while still feeling a bit funny from lifting in the gym. So that's worked really well this year for us.
When you talk about 9 possible workouts per week, can you give me a basic idea of how far you're going on maybe some of your longer days that you would be going in the water? Just, again, trying to get a good feel for, you know, what worked so well. I think everybody kind of understand the nitty gritty. So as much detail as you can give us, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, no problem. Again, what myself and Matt within that group try to establish is where we think those athletes can, you know, what is their kind of peak volume where we can get that out. So we're not going beyond that. It takes a bit of time to figure that out with an athlete. It takes maybe a number of years to get to a point. So Cara Hanlon, who broke the Scottish record at trials for the 100 breaststroke, she could swim round about the sort of mid to high 30s, 30,000 meters per week, and we know that is, and that can fluctuate, but we know that is a good value for her to be able to maximize her performance. So it's not a great amount, in terms of that, but we know if we go beyond that, and Matt knows that if he goes into the 40s, 50s sometimes, that is just going to send her over the edge. But again, it differs. So, but we've got a 400 freestyler who she can get anything up to 50, 60k weeks at the right parts of the season. I know she's just put in just recently a good 50, 55k week. It was pretty tough for her, but she managed to do that. She knows that's her bread and butter training that needs to get done. So, and again, we're trying to make it as specific as we can around those athletes. I've had some sprinters in the past, some male sprinters that don't like the volume, but I know that at certain points of the year that they need to sort of hit a good chunk of 40,000 meters a week to make sure that they're aerobically in tune with being able to hit those 100 freestyles when they come along.
Yeah. I think it's just neat that there's a role for, someone like you to kind of oversee it, and yet giving, room for your coaches to coach too, and not necessarily standing over it. So just last question kind of about technical stuff. How much drill is there involved? Are you guys, because I know there's different variations of thought out here where some people believe in drill. Some people think drill can, create bad habits. Is drilling something that you guys do a lot of within that yardage or that meterage?
Yeah, I have to give a lot of credit to my colleague here, Matt, who really does hone in on the drill work. It's something that we, and specifically he thinks is very important. And, I've learned a lot watching him over the last few years develop some of those drill works in terms of position in the water, some of the drills and skills that we put in place for the athletes. And we make it a part that is absolutely, there'll be some element of skill every day. I came into the session the other day and, Matt was working on with some of the guys just on flotation and body position. It was almost like a synchro session. And the guys were working, so you're working hypoxically, but working on just posture in the water, being able to move your legs up to your chest and be able to balance yourself. Some of the big guys were sinking, but, it's good for them to even practice, just sitting in the water and floating and feeling where they're at. So, yeah, skill is very important to us in terms of drills, but also I think it's really important from my point of view is that you get that progression through the drill into the swim. I think if you get closer towards, if you set progressive drills, end up being able to apply that to swim, utilizing some of the equipment to help you to get that, the finger paddles, the snorkel, to make sure the body position is correct as well. So I think it's important for us to utilize that skill, but they're only drills unless you can, they're stage drills unless you can actually apply them. So it's important that we can get eyes on that, use cameras to show the athletes what they're doing in the water. But no, drills plays a heavy part of what we do for sure.
Can we get an example of one of those progressions?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think one of the things, and probably Matt would be able to explain it better than me, but I think it's we do a lot where we get to a position with a high elbow catch on freestyle, where we can start on the recovery over the top. We started with just body position, arm out on the side, being able to rotate and make sure that high elbow catch when your arm's over recovers. So you're working on the timing where you can sort of over and back and make sure that you can drill over. And then eventually you can start to work at sort of high elbow chicken wing style training, then sort of into doggy paddle. And then you can see with a head up freestyle, and then you bring the breathing into it. So, you go through these stages where you're applying the rotation, the catch, all simultaneously as you develop each little aspect of that, while still keeping the kick going as well. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does. And I appreciate you getting into the nitty gritty. And now I'm going to transition to a little bit more of your big picture, what I imagine you spend a lot of your time doing, like some some big
Yeah.
picture goals, because with all the different types of competitions and the different levels of athletes, how do you strive for improvement and growth as a program? What kind of goals do you put out there for the program as a whole?
It's a great question. We've been talking about this over the last few weeks. You know, we're having a great season, but you can't sit still on this. It's important. I think we've reestablished some really great values this year and where we're going, but we've got to keep evolving. You know, we're ambitious on a university level to attract some of the international athletes from around the world, but we're ambitious on the international scene to be able to look at the Olympics and the World Championships, do that. And we're extremely ambitious to on a university level in the UK to be able to keep pushing the Loughborough of this world and keep them on the toes. We were second last year, so we're looking to do that. So from a structure point of view, you know, we meet as a coaches. What can we do? What can we learn? Speaking to other coaches around, speaking to, you know, our friends in the US, and be able to learn some things about where we're going, working with our partners on the next step. So we had a good meeting this week actually about what the next steps of this program can be, where we're going to take it, what is the vision for the next 2 to 4 to 6 years, and what things can we put in place to allow us to achieve those goals.
What ways do you see this university system enhancing British swimming? In what ways do you see it, evolving? And, you know, here in the States, the collegiate system is a real foundational piece of the success of our national team. How do you see, you know, your program and your role within the university helping the international teams as a whole?
Well, like in the US, when swimmers get to that age where they're looking to they're young adults, they're looking to go and study. That's just a part of life. There's numerous places you can go around the UK. There's some national centres that British Swimming invest in as well, as in terms of the super elite, the Adam Peters of this world, where they can go and they can train in there. But you do need an underbelly of, you know, good quality university-based program for these student athletes to go and study and to compete at a high level. You know, and we're one of those programs. I think it's growing all the time. I think within that structure, I think it gives these young adults, the student athletes, to go and chase those international teams. There's only so much that some of these national centres can do and provide, and you know, we want to try and help that layer of that next layer, or the international teams from around the world that maybe, you know what, might go and try myself in Scotland and go and compete. We have athletes over from Ireland and, you know, as far as, you know, Hong Kong and China, different nationalities that can come in and utilise our great resources to be able to do that. So the impact is far and wide, and I think the UK in itself, in terms of university swimming, is certainly gathering momentum. It is different from the collegiate system in the US, as we alluded to at the start of the conversation, but I do think that the UK university system is starting to gather a bit of momentum, and there's gaps, and there's for us to do that, and it's not for everybody to go into a national centre or elsewhere over to the US. There's other opportunities, and we feel at Edinburgh that we're one of those great opportunities to do that.
It definitely seems like it, and kind of want to circle back around to finish up with that healthy culture and ask a fun couple questions. What kind of things do you guys do to make sure that, you know, sport stays sport and it stays fun? Like, how do you make swimming fun on a consistent basis?
There's something else we've talked around that culture. It's so important. We've done I turned up to one of the sessions, and my colleagues, the coaches in the program, they're great guys, and you know, and I turned up to one of the session, and Matt had got a bunch of the weights, barbells, weights with some of that, and he got them in the pool of doing relays underwater, working hypoxically with these weights running under the water, and the guys are having a great time. And I was thinking, what's going on? How do I explain this one? And the guys were just having a great time, and I'm not sure what came of it, but they're having relay races of underwater weight training. So that was good. Things like that is so good. We also socially try and get together, and we run at sort of a performance swimming annual dinner. Obviously, we've not been able to do it for the last few years, but we recognise the achievements of the year, the athletes that have maybe retired, and we recognise their achievements, and we recognise the team's performance as well. So we're looking to do that again this year. So that'd be great to get everyone together and celebrate some of those elements. It's super important that the relationships that the athletes have, the coaches have with the athletes, that can continue on, from whatever they go on and do in their next stage of their careers and lives. So it's really important to me personally that continues, but it helps them have a great experience in there as well.
Yeah, it definitely adds to the culture, and you kind of hit on it right there. Fun is an important piece for you personally, and I kind of agree that, as coaches, and I know that we talked before we started recording about, having families. You've got 2 young daughters, and it's sometimes hard with work and family to find the fun, but give us an example of what you like to do when it's time for fun for Chris. What do you do for fun to get away from coaching and kind of make sure that you're having your share of the fun too?
Well, I as I say, I've got 2 young daughters, and they keep me busy, twin girls, and I love hanging out with them. But away from that, I've done a lot of weightlifting myself this year. I've got back into some weightlifting with a good friend of mine who's got me down the gym and doing a bit of weightlifting. So that's some personal targets there. But I'm also a huge fan, and I played in a heavy metal band. I love heavy metal music, and a lot of US bands that I love. And so that's my guilty pleasure, listening to some great heavy metal music.
What instrument do you play?
Well, not so much instruments. I was the vocalist, lead shouter, put it that way.
That is awesome. Great stuff. Yeah, no. Hey, it was really a pleasure to get to know you. It sounds like you've got a great program there that you've built from scratch. You started it up in 2008, and going on 15 years here, it seems like you've got something special. Definitely getting some notice on our website through results and comments and stuff. So it was a pleasure to get to know you, and thank you for the glimpse into the program. Best of luck going forward.
No, thank you very much for having me, and it's been a pleasure talking to you.
You've been listening to the SwimSwam podcast. Stay tuned for new episodes every week. You can take SwimSwam podcast on the go by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. Look for links in the description below, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos as well.